Siguro, karamihan sa inyo ang sasabihin, "Uy, mukha siyang pato." And this would be correct, it is a duck. Pero iimbitahin ko kayo na tingnan itong litrato na ito ng baliktad. Na imbis na yung tuka ng pato ay makita ito bilang tenga. Tenga ng ano? Anong hayop yan kung iyon ang tenga? Looking at the duck's beak as ears of another animal, many of us will see that the picture is also a rabbit. Kaya itong litrato na ito ay inahahalin tulad natin sa pananaw natin tungkol sa mga bagay-bagay sa karanasan natin. We can look at things from two different views and they would both be accurate. Pareho silang tama. So this is an illustration of how reframing and thought substitution can actually be helpful. Some of us might ask, am I just lying to myself so that I can be happy? Niloloko ko lang ba ang sarili ko? Mapasaya ko lang ang sarili ko? Reframing and thought substitution is not about deceiving ourselves or twisting facts just to make ourselves feel better. Hindi rin ito ang pagbabago ng pananaw bilang pangpalubag loob. Rather, it is recognizing that our perceptions are subjective and sometimes what we perceive is different from reality. Maghahanap tayo ng patunay kung ano nga ba ang katotohanan base sa mga malawak na pag-uunawa sa mga tao at pangyayari. Sa gayon, gagaan ang loob natin dahil tama lang na paniwalaan itong bagong pananaw na ito. Our feelings improve as we adopt a more fair and accurate way of seeing people, situations, and ourselves that is based on actual evidence. A relatively simple way that can help us do this is to use the ABCs of emotion management, ABC, DAF being the acronym that we shall use. Unahin natin ang ABC. Ang ABC ay tungkol sa pag-unawa ng ating damdamin. Parang katulad ito ng ginawa nating practice sa triangle na ating karanasan. A stands for antecedent event o iyong pangyayari. B is belief o paniniwala o pag-iisip. C stands for consequent feeling o ang naging pakiramdam natin. Kung isasalin sa Filipino ang ABC, maaari nating gamitin ang pa na ang katumbas ay pangyayari, paniniwala, at pakiramdam. Our feelings begin with something happening, and that's A for antecedent event. Sometimes, the event is an external event, something outside of us that happened. Sometimes, that event is inside, a thought, an idea, a dream, or a memory. Itong antecedent event o pangyayari ay maaaring nangyari sa ating kapaligiran at pwede din na ito ay nangyari sa kalooban natin. B is for beliefs, which includes our assumptions and thoughts. Mga paniniwala, pag-aakala, at pag-iisip ang kasali dito. Oftentimes, we have an interpretation to a given situation or event. This interpretation that just came automatically often causes us to feel the way we do. Dito sa pananaw at interpretasyon natin sa pangyayari nagmumula ang damdamin natin. Mabilis itong mangyari at hindi natin sinusuri. We often take for granted that our initial assumptions and thoughts are true and often lead us to react in a certain way. C stands for consequent feelings. These include the feelings that come to us given our assumptions and thoughts about the event. Ang pakiramdam natin ang kasunod ng pananaw, paniniwala at mabilisang mga naiisip sa pangyayari. Now, let's talk about DEF, the acronym used to guide us in managing our feelings. Ginagamit natin itong DEF sa paggabay sa atin na maibsan ang mga di kaaya-ayang damdamin. D stands for dispute o batikos. E stands for effective philosophy o bagong pananaw. And F is for feelings change o bagong pakiramdam. Sa Filipino, ang DEF ay maaring isalin sa ba na nangangahulugang batikos, bagong pananaw at bagong pakiramdam. D would be to dispute o batikos. Dispute what? Not the feeling, but the belief. Patikusin o suriin natin iyong naiisip natin tungkol sa ating mga pananaw at pag-iisip tungkol sa ating karanasan. Katulad nga ng nilarawan kanina, mayroon kayang ibang paraan na pwedeng matanaw itong napagdaanan natin? Might there be another accurate way of interpreting the same situation? Maliban sa naisip ko, meron bang ibang makatotohanang pananaw na mas nakakagaan ng loob? Tulad ng baso ng tubig na napag-usapan kanina, mag-iisip tayo ng ibang pananaw tungkol sa sitwasyon na mas nakakagaan ng loob. Along the way, we can ask ourselves some of the following questions. To what extent are my current thoughts and assumptions true? To what extent are they untrue? Ano ang masasabi kong tunay na ebidensya na tama ang naiisip ko? Ano naman ang mga ebidensya na maaaring may kamalian ang naiisip ko? If a good friend were in a similar situation, what would I tell him or her? Whenever we feel something particularly intense, it's like a light that's switched on. We are unable to determine if this reaction is even proportionate to the event that triggered it. As such, we often think in terms of all or nothing, and we tend to use words like always and never. Sa ganitong panahon, naiisip natin ang lahat ng pagkakataon na nararamdaman natin ito. Napakadaling isipin na palagi na lang ganito o kaya hindi nangyayari ang nais mangyari. We think in extremes. Pero kadalasan ang katotohanan ay nasa gitna. Hindi iyong palagi na lang o hinding-hindi. This is when disputing our thoughts could be helpful. We urge ourselves to be more rational and think in terms of probabilities and avoid absolutes. Ang pag-iisip ng lahat na lang at hinding-hindi ay ang pag-iisip na nanggagaling sa damdamin o hindi sa makatuwiran na pag-iisip. Only when we engage with our rational selves are we ready for the next step. E stands for effective philosophy o bagong pananaw. Mula sa ating pagbabatikos, makakabuo tayo ng panibagong pananaw at pag-iisip tungkol sa ating sitwasyon. We know that our way of thinking is effective because we are neither judging ourselves or others, and we are more fair to everyone involved. Iniisip natin ang sarili at ang iba sa mas makatuwiran at makatarungang paraan, kaya mas magaan din ang pakiramdam natin. F stands for feelings change o bagong pakiramdam. With the adoption of an effective philosophy, we are able to make ourselves feel a bit better. Ang mabisang pag-iisip ay magdudulot ng mas magaan na kalooban. To summarize, the ABCs of emotion management is represented by the acronym ABCDEF. ABC is used in understanding one's feelings, and DEF is used to help manage emotions. ABC stands for antecedent event, beliefs, and consequent feeling. DEF stands for dispute, effective philosophy, and feelings change. Sa Pilipino, ito ay isinasalin bilang pa-pa-pa, ba-ba-ba. Ang pa-pa-pa ay tumutukoy sa pag-unawa ng ating damdamin at ang ba-ba-ba ay ginagamit naman para maibsan ang damdamin. Ang pa-pa-pa ay tumutukoy sa mga salitang pangyayari, paniniwala at pakiramdam. Ang ba-ba-ba naman ay tumutukoy sa mga salitang batikos, bagong pananaw at bagong pakiramdam. Let's now apply this to the two examples earlier. The first example was about failing in something. That would be the antecedent event. The beliefs and thoughts were related to not being able to do it right, thinking that one is a failure, being stupid or good for nothing, which triggered one's self-doubt of competence. The consequent feelings were sadness, frustration, and shame. Let's now proceed to the next steps of DEF. Perhaps the person can ask himself or herself, how true are these thoughts? What evidence does one have that one is indeed a failure and incompetent? After thinking through one's life experiences, the person might realize that this is just one failure, but he or she can learn. If we change the thought, then the feeling can change to being challenged. The behavior also changes from giving up to learning or even asking help from others. Ang ikalawang halimbawa ay tungkol sa isang taong hindi napaunlakan ng mga kaibigan o kapamilya. Iyon ang pangyayari. Gawa nito, maaring naisip niya na wala silang kwentang kaibigan o kapamilya at nagdududa din siya kung karapat-dapat nga ba siyang bigyan ng pagpapahalaga at pagmamahal ng iba. Ang naging pakiramdam dito ay pagtatampo, pagkagalit at nasaktan. Sa pagbabatikos ng paniniwala, maaari niyang tanungin ng sarili kung gaano katotoo ang naiisip na hindi siya pinapahalagahan ng mga kaibigan o kapamilya. Dahil ba hindi siya napaunlakan sa pagkakataong ito ay isinantabi na siya? Kung may kaibigan siyang humingi ng payo sa kanya tungkol sa ganitong sitwasyon, anong ipapayo niya? Maaring masagot ang mga tanong na ito na marahil talagang hindi tama ang oras ng kanyang paanyaya kaya hindi siya napaunlakan. Siguro may mga kaibigan siya na hindi siya ang inuuna. Baka may katotohanan niyon. Pero may ilang mga tao na nakikita niyang pinapahalaga naman siya. Sa ganitong pag-iisip, nabubuo ang kanyang bagong pananaw na hindi naman lahat ng tao ay walang pagpapahalaga sa kanya. May ilan na maaaring hindi nga siya inuuna, pero mayroon din namang iilan na may pagpapahalaga sa kanya bilang matalik na kaibigan o malapit na kapamilya. Dahil dito, nagbago ang kanyang pakiramdam, mas lumuwag ang dibdib at gumaan ang kalooban. These two examples highlight how A, B, C, D, E, F or pa, ba, ba can be used as a way of changing the way we think about the situation, reframing the situation, and creating a thought substitute. As we change the way we think about an experience and ourselves, our feelings also change. Sa pagbabago ng pananaw sa isang sitwasyon, magbabago rin ang ating pakiramdam. Subukan natin itong bagong natutunan. Tandaan na matututunan lang natin ito sa paulit-ulit na pag-iensayo. It is a skill that will take much practice. Gamitin natin ang ginawa nating triangle na pagsasanay kanina. Isa-isahin natin ang A, B, C, D, E, F o pa, ba, ba. Kunin ang papel kanina at magsimula na tayo. You may decide to pause this video as you do each of the steps in this process. We start with A, antecedent event o pangyayari. Isulat ang nangyari noon sa tinutukoy na karanasan. What happened then? We now identify B for beliefs o mga paniniwala at pag-iisip. Write down your assumptions about the situation and thoughts about yourself and others. Isulat din ang lumitaw na duda sa sarili. The next is C for consequent feelings o pakiramdam. Ano ang nararamdaman mo noon? Write down the feelings you have about the situation. Now, let's go into helping ourselves manage our feelings. D stands for dispute or batikos. Ask yourself the following questions that apply to your situation. Gaano katotoo ang mga naiisip ko? Sa anong paraan naman sila hindi tama? What actual evidence do I have that would prove these thoughts? What evidence might I have that could disprove them? Kung ang isang matalik kong kaibigan ay nasa singtulad na sitwasyon, ano ang sasabihin ko sa kanya? From here, we go to E, effective philosophy o bagong pananaw. how might I consider the different elements of my dispute into a new way of thinking? Ano ang mas mabisang pananaw na mas nasa katuwiran at mas makatotohanan? After you have written this, you can then check F if your feelings changed o may bagong pakiramdam. Isulat mo kung ano ang naging epekto ng iyong bagong pananaw sa iyong damdamin. No matter how small the change may be, acknowledge it. Let's now summarize the various items we discussed today. We began by talking about 4 basic principles about feelings. These include the following. Number 1, feelings have a quick and unbidden onset, and we cannot change this. Number 2, our feelings are ours, and we have a responsibility to know, understand, and appropriately express them. Number 3, intense feelings can cause us to think and act irrationally and unreasonably. And number 4, feelings can be managed through our thoughts and beliefs. We then proceeded to discuss that our thoughts, feelings, and actions are really interconnected and influence one another in all directions. When we change the way we think about a given situation and ourselves, our feelings likewise change. So, we discussed the ABCs of emotion management, or in Filipino, pa, ba, where ABC, or pa in Filipino, is about understanding our feelings, and DEF, or ba in Filipino, are the steps in managing our emotions. Each of these means something. A stands for antecedent event, and pa stands for pangyayari. B stands for beliefs, and pa stands for paniniwala. C stands for consequent feelings, and pa stands for pakiramdam. D stands for dispute, and ba is for batikos. E means effective philosophy, and ba means bagong pananaw. F is feelings change, and ba is bagong pakiramdam. Remember to practice this to help yourself. And with that, I'd like to end this module on kalooban. Maraming salamat sa iyong pakikinig, and please check out the next module on helpful behaviors or kapaki-pakinabang na gawain. Let's end with a loving kindness meditation. Click on this link for the English or Filipino version.